everyone. Happy MiniCon weekend. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nicole. Welcome to Modern Magic Writing Local Author Talk. We will be interviewing local author Nicole Hall from Castle Rock, Colorado. She is the author of the Modern Magic series, which can be found on Amazon as both a print and Kindle version, along with her first book, Accidental Magic, in audiobook form on Audible. Nicole has recently published her fourth book in the series, Impulsive Magic, this past month in October, with her fifth book, Rebellious Magic, coming out next week. So first off, I would like to thank you, Nicole, for taking the time to talk with me. And so you started this series earlier this year in 2020, correct?
Mostly.
Okay. And you've been pretty much cranking out a book each month, right?
Yes, I started writing the series in September of last year, but the first book came out May of this year. So it's been pretty much since then, pretty close to a book a month. So it's May, June, July, and then it's going to be, what month is this? October, November, December. Yeah.
Awesome. So how did you decide that this was going to be your author debut series?
I started with the characters. And I had these fully formed characters in my head, and they had things they wanted to do, and I mostly just took notes. The characters always decide what I'm going to do. I can't really write a story that's not paranormal in nature, so there's always magic or something hinky happening, and so this one was something that I wanted to explore, the idea of fairies. And what would happen if fairies were real in our world and yet not as mysterious as they seem in all the folklore.
Okay. So what was one of the obstacles that you didn't really expect when you chose to pursue writing?
Well, so I'm independently published, which means that I do all the publishing myself. And so that was not something I had expected when I first started writing. I expected I would find a publisher who would do all of the non-writing work for me. But that's not really the way it works. So that was probably the biggest surprise of all of it, was how much work it takes to get a book out beyond just writing something, writing a story. It's a lot of work.
Do you find that it's sometimes more work, more time out of your day focusing on the publishing aspect versus the writing the book aspect?
At this point, it's probably half and half. When I first started writing the series, then back in September, it was a lot of just writing because I don't have a book published yet. Once May hit, then it became very much half publishing, half writing, which made it a lot harder to crank out a book a month.
Yeah, so going into that, since you published your first book in May, how did publishing that first book kind of start to change your process of writing the rest of the books in the series?
When I had published the first one, I had an idea of what I wanted to do for the series. So I had plotted it. I had, an idea of where it was going. Once I published it, though, and other people got to see it and read it, I had feedback. I had people giving me advice and ideas of where I could go with the story that I hadn't thought of, that I definitely used some of them. So, I had fans. Suddenly I had fans, which was awesome, that would read it and get back to me, email me and say, I really like this character. I want to see more of this character. And then that character I would put into the rest of the series. So with each book that came out, it kind of added to the richness of the world because I could see what people liked and do more of that, which was really cool that I had that ability to do that.
Yeah. How did you go about selecting some of the names for each of your characters and even future characters? Do they just come at you, or do you get inspiration from elsewhere?
Sometimes they come at me. There is a character in the fourth book that just came out called Hank, I think. Anyway, some of the characters come at me with their names already wholly created. So like a lot of my main characters, they do. My side characters sometimes takes a little work. The villain in the fifth book, the one that's just about to come out, I had to work that name because I had a very specific idea that I wanted the name to give to her. She was supposed to be kind of evil, like an evil queen, type of thing. So she had to have a name that fit that. So the first couple of names I came up with were not good. So I had to work with it a little bit and play with the sound of it. And then of course I have some that that's just their name. That's what they say, that this is my name and that's what they are. And I can't, even if I try to change it, it doesn't work. Because it just doesn't feel right to me.
Right. So you write from both character point of view, male and female, correct? What did you find was the most difficult when you're writing from the point of view of the opposite sex?
Everything. Men are confusing.
Yes.
I'm married, so a lot of the emotional reactions I took was half of the things I had asked my husband about or my male friends, and the other half was this idea of what would a woman want the guy to say? Because I write romance novels, so my main audience is females. It's people who want the fantasy of a romance. And so sometimes the realistic answer is not the one that I'm going to put in the book. It's going to be what the most romantic, what the best answer could be that you want to hear, your best fantasy. So sometimes it's me imagining what I want to hear, and sometimes it's me asking people, how would you react to this? And then working with that.
Okay. Is your husband an inspiration for any of your characters or bits of him?
The main character, the main hero of my second book is self-proclaimed tech god, and that is a direct quote from my husband, who is, he's a computer programmer. So that's probably the closest inspiration that I've had is that character. But none of my characters are based directly on people. It's more like I take an aspect of their personality that I really like that I think would work with this and try to bring it together, which makes for a more full character, I think, and also makes me not get sued from anybody that I know.
Very true, very true. That's something I didn't think of when you're an author. So far, since obviously you're now going to be into your fifth book, what has been your hardest scene to write?
Historically, the sex scenes are the hardest for me. I don't know if we can talk about that, but in general, those are quite difficult to write. But outside of those, and that's more just positioning, there's a lot of action involved in those scenes. So trying to figure out who's doing what is tricky and keeping it all in your head. But emotionally, the hardest scene to write was probably one where, I don't want to give away spoilers, but it's one in the end of my fourth book where something quite bad is happening and it made me cry as I was writing it. So that was difficult. It was difficult to push through the emotion because I wanted to have good things happen to my characters, and I was forcing bad things to happen to them. And so that was difficult for me.
I mean, that's good that you felt the emotion as you were writing the scene. That's also got to be hard to take that away as you're writing the scene while also instilling that emotion in that same scene. That's got to be really difficult.
It's hard to not shy away from it, when tough stuff is happening emotionally in the books. And one of my first books, in the first book, the main character deals with some emotional abuse from her ex-husband, which was also difficult to write. In the sense that, again, I wanted her to be strong and not have to deal with the aftermath of what happened to her, but she had to have that past to be the person that she was. So she still had to deal with some of the aftermath of it, which was difficult to write as well, to get into that mind space.
Pretty realistic. I mean, there are probably some of your readers that have had that type of emotional trauma, so it's something that they're able to connect with the character. So I'd love to hear about kind of like your writing style during the day. So like, what is your most unusual writing quirk that you have?
I am a strange person. I like to have music playing when I write, but it can't be music with words because the words get distracted. I'll end up like typing out the lyrics of a song instead of what I'm writing. But I don't think that's that weird. I feel like that a lot of writers have music playing a lot of writers have like playlists for their music. So I don't think that's that weird. I actually really like writing in bed when I get up in the morning. I like to not have to be dressed or anything. Like I can get up and just go to work, and that's my, I can, and it's like the most freeing time for me because then there's not all the other stuff from the world getting in the way. So, but again, I don't think that's so much of a quirk. I know a lot of writers that do that. So, I don't know. I don't know what would be weird to a non-writer because I've always been a writer.
Well, I think all of that's kind of weird to a non-writer, a reader, knowing that my favorite author is just writing in bed. But that's
pajamas. Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of music? So it sounds like instrumental. Like, what's kind of your favorite? Do you have a playlist or a soundtrack that really is one?
Yeah, I do have a playlist. I have a writing playlist that I use that I add songs to all the time. There's a lot of Lorena McKinnon on it, which technically some of her songs have lyrics, but a lot of them I don't understand. So, it's like not having lyrics. I have a couple of soundtracks from TV shows. Like I actually listened to the CSI soundtrack from a show that was on a long time ago. They released a soundtrack at some point in like the early 2000s, and I picked it up, and it's got great background music. So I listen to it all the time. I mean, they're doing like science on the show while the music is happening, so it's like thinking music. I also have an app that I use that is it's just meant for background focus music. So I pay for that one. So that one's something I play. I'll switch back and forth between my writing playlist and this app that plays just like gongs or something. It's different every time. So it helps you focus without drawing your attention away from everything.
That's interesting. So you said you had to be a self-publisher. So obviously you probably have a lot of social media marketing out there. Probably, I know you have a website. And on there is typically an author bio. How hard was that writing a bio about yourself, and what did you think was the hardest part of it?
It was very hard. I don't think I'm good at writing copy, which is like not fictional stuff. So trying to sit down and distill your whole self down into a couple of sentences, it was very tricky because what is the most important? What do readers want to know? Stuff like that. My original bio was the usual, she lives in Colorado, has a husband, 2 kids, there's cats involved. It was like the usual, like this is my life in general. And you see that a lot from other authors. That's where they put their stuff. And I had a fellow indie author tell me that readers don't care about what your home life is. They want to know what your personality is like. So if they get to the point where they're reading your author bio, they're already kind of interested in your work, and it's another place to put your voice into it. So she was like, what you say isn't as important as how you say it. So I rewrote the whole thing and made it more my personality rather than this like generic business bio that everyone seems to have. So that was hard as well, trying to make it my voice, but not offensive. My books have curse words in them and things, and normally I have quite a potty mouth. So it went into my author bio, but I used the word potty mouth instead of actually cursing. So but it was difficult. It was very difficult to come up with what to say. Like, what do I say to people that are interested in me, but me for my writing. So that was what it was. It was what about your writing are they going to care about? If they want to know about your cat and your dogs and stuff, then post that stuff on Facebook and tell them to join.
Yeah, that's a blog.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you had just said that you had to rewrite it. How many times do you think you ended up having to rewrite it before you were somewhat satisfied with it?
At least 3. There are at least 3 versions of it. So, I mean, and everything is forever on the internet. So I guess if you go look it up, you could probably find all 3 versions somewhere. But the current version was basically a shortened version of like the previous one. So I had one that was kind of long that had all of my usual bio information. And then I rewrote that one into a long author, like here's how I write bio, and then shortened it. So now I have a very short bio that I feel like gets my point across, but it was months in making. So, like I'll be writing and I'm like, I need a break. There's too much in the story happening right now. I just need to get away and do something else. So instead of doing something fun, I'll pull out my author bio and then see what I can change.
You're always tweaking. You are always perfecting, it sounds like. How do you think being a writer has kind of helped you as a person?
So I've always sort of considered myself a writer. I actually, so much so that I went and got several degrees in college in writing specifically. But how did it help me as a person? It's hard to tell because I don't know what my person was like before that. I think as a writer, a lot of writers are very empathetic. Because we spend so much time in other people's heads that we have created, that we have to figure out what their emotions are and things like that. So we're very much into like, what did this feel like for you emotionally, and try to figure that out. So we tend to notice and pick up on stuff like that, which I think can make relationships with people better. The other aspect of it, I think, that is good for people is that the communication. My husband has always said that I am way more willing to talk about anything. I will use my words for anything than, I don't get angry and get quiet and leave. I want to talk about it. I want to communicate and use my words. And I can't right now, but normally. So I think communication is a good way that writers contribute to being good people, or contribute to society as a whole. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's good. So as a writer, obviously you write snarky paranormal romances, into fantasy, paranormal stuff. If you could choose your mascot, avatar, spirit animal, what would it be and why?
That's okay. Well, I love dragons. I've always loved dragons. I actually have several of them tattooed on me. I have several tattoos of dragons and all over my house and things like that. I decorate in dragons. That's how it works. But I wouldn't say that's my spirit animal. If I had to choose a spirit animal, it's probably more like a squirrel, because I will definitely like run out into traffic and then almost get myself killed because I'm not paying attention. It's like, oh, something shiny. That's where my life is at. So I would like to think that I'm a dragon. As a squirrel who thinks she's a dragon, that's what happens. That's
a flying squirrel. You're a flying squirrel. Yeah.
I'm like a flying squirrel. That's slightly better than a regular squirrel.
That's a good answer. I like that. Dragon / squirrel. Very odd combination, but I think it works. So obviously you're not just a writer, you're probably a reader, just like all of us. What's a favorite underappreciated novel of yours?
One that I like? Okay. You can't ask a reader what a favorite book is. You know this.
I do. You could have several.
One book, no problem. I really like Kristen Cashor's Graceling series and her book Graceling. I don't know that it's underappreciated because it's won several awards. But when people talk about, and it's borderline YA fantasy. And but when people talk about it, I don't see her name recommended a whole lot, and I feel like it should be on every list because her books are so good. It came out, I don't know, like 15 years ago or something like that, but her writing is amazing. I really like what she has to say and the way she says it. So that's the one I would pick for that. There are so many underappreciated authors though out there, especially like I said, being an indie. I'm part of a bunch of indie groups, and there are so many people who work their butts off to produce good quality stories that don't have the backing of all the money of the publishers and stuff, that get underappreciated just because they don't have as much visibility. And it's so hard to break into where people can see you, if you're not a big name already. So, I encourage people to, if you've never heard of that person, check them out anyway. I mean,
right. There might be people that books you would like that aren't by the big name publishers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like yourself.
Hopefully.
What are some behind the scenes tidbits in your life that would probably surprise your readers?
I don't know that it would surprise anything would surprise my readers. I am pretty straightforward about what my life is like in my social media accounts and stuff. So I have a Facebook group where I talk several times a day where we're talking about things. I have Instagram and and a Pinterest board and stuff like that, where people get a really good idea of what I'm like, and that's really what I'm like. Remember the squirrel in traffic? That's where we're at. So anything that it would surprise my readers. I love sleep. I love sleep, and I don't sleep. So it would probably surprise my readers to know that despite the fact that I write quite fast, I still stay up really late almost every night when I shouldn't to write books. And that the more people interact with me, the more likely I am to stay up late and write books when I shouldn't be. I don't know. I don't know if that would surprise them. I suppose I should talk to my readers more to find out what they like, what they know, what they expect of me.
Yeah, well, is there any type of hobbies besides, obviously, I know writing's a full-time job. And you're also a wife and you're a mother of 2 kids. Is there any hobbies that you have outside of sleep and writing?
I used to have hobbies. Before March, I definitely had hobbies. Now it's mostly just homeschooling my children because I don't have a choice. But before that, I used to, I do archery. I know how to shoot Olympic recurve archery. I was competitive. I used to win competitions, local competitions and stuff. And actually before this year, I was looking at entering state competitions and national competitions for my bracket. So that could have been really cool and fun, but I haven't now practiced in 9 months because we can't go out and do things like that anymore. So that's unfortunate, but that is something that I do. I mean, I guess that's a hobby that nobody thinks about. I don't think about it. It's just part of me. But what else do I do? I play volleyball too. I'm sporty. That's surprising to me still. I play volleyball with a team. I'm the team captain, and we do things that are volleyball-like, practice and win championships. That's fun.
No, I think the archery would probably surprise your readers the most, especially knowing that you did tournaments and were wanting to go further. That's a little tidbit about you. That's pretty cool.
There we go. We found something.
There we go. All right, last question. If you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
I would be, do not shave off your eyebrows. That's bad idea. That was in high school, just in case anybody's wondering.
It was definitely.
That was when the really thin eyebrows were really popular, and I had thick, bushy mess. Anyway, that's not important, but that's what I would tell my younger self.
What about your younger writing self?
What?
What about your younger writing self? How's that?
Oh, we weren't specific.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't.
My younger writing self, I would tell her to not spend so much time waiting, because like I said, I've been writing pretty much my whole life. And when I was like 16, I decided I was going to be a published writer, and that's what I was going to do. I was going to write romance novels. That's what I wanted. And so I started writing romance novels at 16. And then I waited and I waited and I waited to submit or publish or try, because I thought, oh, I'm not ready yet. And then, I went away to college where I got those multiple degrees in writing, which taught me so many things, but I should not have waited to try until I was out of college. And by then I had small children, and then it was, I'll wait until my small children are now in school full time, and then I'll do it, which I finally did start publishing when my youngest started kindergarten full time. So I got about a year out of that before coronavirus hit. But we're not going back now. We're not going back. We've come too far. So we're gonna keep pushing forward and write more books and produce more series and have fun. And it's this great career, but I wish I hadn't waited so long to start it.
You started it. So that's what's good.
Yeah.
And you're going to have your 5th book out next week. And it sounds like there's going to be a 6th one next month.
Yep.
And then you're just going to keep steamrolling ahead and continue writing, cranking out books, right?
Yep. I have a whole publication schedule for next year. So starting in March, it'll be like every other month a book comes out for the whole rest of the year for the next series. So there's a lot coming up.
Well, we can't wait to read it, and you guys watching along might have to check her out and all her amazing series. Thank you, Nicole, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This was a Modern Magic Writing local author talk, and I hope you guys check out the rest of our mini-con schedule and festivities that we have going on. So thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.